Welcome to today's community call, everybody. Today we'll be discussing member appreciation, member loyalty, member recapture and retention, um, and ways that we can thank any of the members who've sustained their memberships with our facilities and make sure they stick around as long as possible as well. Um, it'll be a pretty similar format to all of our other calls. Go through Zoom really quickly. Remind you guys to go ahead and type your questions and answers into that box, and to raise your hand and speak up. We definitely want to hear from you on these brainstorm calls. The last number of these have been awesome with you guys raising your hands, chiming in, and sharing your thoughts and experiences and questions. Um, and then we'll just dive right into that brainstorm. So, like as I mentioned, the chat and the question and answer tools are really useful for these brainstorm calls because we can see what you guys want to talk about. So go ahead and use that chat if you want to chat with everyone. Just click all panelists and attendees in the two drop-down dialog box, and everyone will be able to see what you're commenting on. And then that question and answer box I mentioned, that's one of the most important parts of these brainstorm calls. Throw in questions right in there. People can upvote them. You can type answers in for each other, and really helps keep the conversation moving and making sure that everyone gets their ideas heard and their questions addressed. And as I said before, the hand raising feature and hearing all of your guys' voices is really awesome on these brainstorm calls. So yeah, click that hand raise button as much as you like. We'll unmute you. When I do that, you'll see a little pop-up, and you'll be ready to talk as soon as you hit unmute myself. And just keep those questions coming in and those chats flowing, and we'll try to get some really great ideas on this call. Our ground rules, as always, are to be polite and respectful of each other. Keep any spoken comments to around 2 minutes so everyone has a chance to speak up. Keep personal political commentary out of this conversation, which should be easy for this topic. And anyone who is abusive we'll remove just to keep everyone's experience positive. As I touched on briefly before, the topics that we're hoping to go over with you guys today are ways that we can express appreciation to the members who've stayed with us throughout the closure. Um, I'm going to go ahead and throw a poll up on the screen right now. We'll keep that up for a little while just to find out how many of you guys have been able to keep a good number of members throughout the closure. I've heard a variety of different percentages out there. So yeah, curious to hear what everyone on this call's experience has been. So for this brainstorm session, I think one of the key topics is figuring out how to express appreciation to the members who did stick around, so that they can, so that they are either going to re-engage if their membership is frozen, they're going to stay on for as many years as they possibly can. And some of the things we've talked about on previous calls, we've heard comments on from individual conversations, ideas of giving deals, discounts, and membership extensions even beyond just a replacement for whatever the time period that you were closed is. Also, I heard ideas around giveaways, exclusive T-shirts, things of that nature. Early on, we heard some ideas of member appreciation events. That might be a little bit more difficult, but still, at some point in the future, that should be a possibility. And then there's also an idea of exclusive content that's even like maybe at a higher tier than your regular members get for this special group of members. Um, then just want to touch on retention with these folks, and then that could even be more broadly retention for all of your members. And anyone who's coming on and starting a new membership in the midst of the current uncertainty that we're all living through. Some of the questions that are interesting to explore there could be around the effects of potential reopening policies and whether that's a positive or negative impact on your members and their desire to stick it with you. And another interesting question around retention is how do we maintain community in the reality of physical distancing and mask wearing and some of the less physical camaraderie that we'll be able to experience as we go through the initial phases of reopening, at least. And then lastly, I'd love to hear some thoughts from you guys on recapturing members who did cancel their membership. How do you get those people back, and how do you get back the walk-in and just ancillary customers that would come through your doors every day? Is there a radically different type of customer journey that you might be thinking about implementing and exploring? And then is there an issue around people just need to feel comfortable again, and it might take some time? Are there ways that we can accelerate that process and make sure that people feel more comfortable as they re-enter the gyms and consider rejoining us as members? So with that with that little preamble, I'd love to open it up for any of your guys' ideas. I don't see any questions just yet, so or comments in the chat. So feel free to start typing those up, or throw your hand in the air and either share an idea around what you're going to be doing at your gym to thank some of the members that have stuck with you, or some questions that you have around how you might best do that in your facility. Yeah, I've got a question around, are people expected to climb in masks? It seems like that's going to be a facility by facility choice. And then, for this specific topic, it might be interesting to explore for this call the implications that might have on community and people just feeling comfortable together and having a good time in the gym. A lot of unknowns there. I'm sure most of us have been wearing masks to the grocery store. That's not a business that has a lot of community in it, so I don't know if there's much personal experience that a lot of people can share around how masks might affect community or just member behavior in a gym. All right. Well, let's if there's anyone out there, I know there's a few gyms that are doing exclusive T-shirts and other sorts of giveaways. If anyone out there is willing to throw their hand up in the air and share some of the considerations they've made while designing those kind of programs, would love to hear from you. All right. Thanks, Walson. Just gonna unmute you right now.
Yeah, good morning, Garnet. Thanks again for hosting. Yeah, no, I was just going to speak about the masks, and we just had our last staff meeting, so it sounds like our staff are going to we're going to make it compulsory for them to wear masks for at least the first week, and then it'll be elective, depending on how the situation goes on the first week of opening. And a lot of that is also just optics and preparation for our members.
Yeah. And will you guys be reopening just to members for that first phase, or for any customer who reserves?
Right now, our objective is members, but we are leaving time slots available for drop-ins.
All right, cool. Thanks for that. And I saw a great comment in the chat here in terms of giveaways and different ways that you can make members feel appreciated and special. Doing custom masks for your gym and your members, it's a great idea. Let's throw that on our brainstorming idea. Yeah. Oh yeah, looks like there's some other people out there doing some giveaways with hand sanitizer, and yeah, I'd love to hear from you, Lillian. Are you going to be branding those at all, or offering like resupply stations? Those are some other strategies I've heard people employing with that specific product of the hand sanitizer. All right.
Looks like Lillian is saying they're going to be branding with their logo.
Oh, great. Cool. Yeah, wonderful idea. Let's see, we've got a question in our question box. I'll just open it up to all you guys. So if you have a member who feels uncomfortable coming back just yet, and sounds like in this situation, maybe they have a frozen membership, are you going to allow them to keep that membership frozen as long as they want, or are you going to put some sort of time caps on that practice? So yeah, go ahead and throw your hand in the air, and I'd love to hear some thoughts from what you guys are dealing with in reality. Cool. All right. I'm just going to unmute you, Laura, and you're ready to go. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Garnet. This is Laura with Bouldering Project. For our first phases of reopening, we're going to allow members to choose to unfreeze on their own. But there will be a point in time somewhere down the road where we'll send an announcement saying, at this point, we are going to unfreeze everyone's memberships. If you'd like to continue to be frozen, please follow this link. We don't know exactly when that is, but it's going to be when we feel and when local, state, federal policy is at the level where we think it's safe to unfreeze everyone's memberships.
Great, thanks for that. And I see there's another answer that someone typed in just for anyone who didn't see it. And it's along a similar line, they're not going to be charging for freezes in general, but not sure how much you'd want to change that in the light of the current situation. Yeah. See, any other comments on membership freezes or how that might affect retention or appreciation going forward? Oh, here's a great question. Back to face masks. Someone would like to know, how do you produce custom branded masks? I know I've seen a few of the promotional companies that you might find, T-shirts, pens, things like that, on offering those on their websites. But I believe in the chat, if I read it correctly, someone was planning on hiring a sewer to come in and either personalize or brand masks. If anyone's out there is doing custom masks, how have you found that to be facilitated? Let's see, there's a couple typed answers in there. Looks like Touchstone shared on Instagram some custom improvised masks they made out of T-shirts, and let's see, another person suggesting you just have a number of different fabrics and even rock climbing specific fabrics to make those masks fun and accessible to the customers. Okay, yeah, here's a great question. So a few gyms out there have, as they reopen, are only doing so, or as they're considering reopening, are going to only be doing so for customers who've remained active on their EFT. This person would love to hear, and I'd love to hear from you guys, some of the thoughts around that. Is it a way to control traffic, at least initially? Is it a way that you're offering an extra service or level of appreciation to those individuals who stuck with you through the closure? And is there any worry about that being off-putting to other members that had to freeze or members that had to cancel? All right, and it looks like there's a typed answer from John about that question, and a great kind of operational insight about it, in that it could just depend on the size of your membership versus the size of your whole facilities. Once you decide what your occupancy limits might be, it could be the case that it's just a non-issue for you. But yeah, I'll throw that back out to you guys. Is there anyone out there who is deciding to do that initial phase of opening, whether it's just a week or a month or whatever time frame you're doing, just for members who've remained active, active payers? All right, that's a tough one. Yeah, and I think John's comments of one of the better approaches there is it take a really close look at what your whole plan is and see how a question like that impacts both the short term and the long term elements of your plan. All right. Oh, this is an interesting question. So someone did an opt-out program while they were closed for their members, and they did bill in March and April. They also received some of the federal financial assistance, and they were thinking about turning off their billing for May, and their gym might potentially be opening in June. They're wondering if any other gyms have contemplated how the federal assistance impacts or interacts with their membership billing. Yeah, I'd love to hear from one of you guys about that if you've been thinking about it internally. All right. Um, oh, here's a great question. Maybe we'll turn this one into a poll. Someone's asking, how much are gyms spending on special rewards for members? So some of those giveaways we talked about, T-shirts, face masks, sanitizer bottles. Um, and as a follow-up question to what kind of budgets are being employed out there, either maybe like by a per member basis might be a good way to discuss that rather than the full size of the budget. And for people that are doing any of those giveaways, are you doing any tiers based on the level of support that that members have chosen to commit to? All right, yeah, go for it, Walson.
Yeah, tough crowd today, Garnet. I was going to maybe invoke more of a conversation about a deliberation our staff had. We just had a very large meeting with our entire group, which is managers and directors, and because there's a limited capacity expecting when we open. Let's just say it's a maximum of 50 people in the gym or 100 people in the gym. We normally feel that 20 to 25% of them might be staff that will be coming in to climb, and that was the big debate that we had. I'm interested to see if there's any other gyms out there that are having that same problem. So the idea would be that our availability for booking would be occupied by up to 25% of them being our own staff. And is anyone considering any kind of restrictions or anything? What we're planning on doing is actually just giving our staff the same membership status. But then the last question came up was when we rehire them back under a temporary layoff, some may not come back. And how would that be handled? Is that too deep for a Tuesday morning?
No, I think that's a really fascinating question. We kind of touched on that super briefly on a previous call, and didn't hear a lot about it. I don't know if people had quite considered it yet. So I think that's a perfect conversation here. How does your staff climbing habits impact your whole business, but also your members? I guess another nuanced part of that is that staff and member interaction when they're out there climbing and hanging out is part of the community that we all enjoy so much. It's a yeah, pretty deep question. Have any of you guys out there considered this topic other than Walson? All right, thanks, Neil. Should be able to go. All right, looks like we got Neil Headley's hand up. Ah, there we go. All right, I'm just gonna mute you, Neil, and just throw your hand back up. Might just be a little bit of a microphone issue. And let's hear from Jackie Turner.
Hi, I actually just finished a staff meeting. I'm in East Coast of Canada, so way ahead of all of you guys. So I just finished a staff meeting this morning, and I actually brought this topic up with my staff. And I asked them, we created a Google form with a few different options, and I actually asked them to let me know how they picture their climbing fitting into our reopening. To me, it's important to make sure that they still get the benefit of their leisure time, and that, you know, because they're coming back to work, they're not then missing out on the opportunity to climb.
And in that staff meeting or on that survey, did you explore that question about just community and staff member friendships and engagements that happen while we're all climbing?
Yeah, so we talked about kind of how we will keep the community engaged, as well as how they will stay engaged in the community while still distancing themselves. And but I really kind of left it pretty open-ended of, you know, letting them come back to me with what they picture this looking like, because I really didn't want to bias the responses too much, because at the end of the day, it's their leisure time, and I just want to make sure we kind of figure out a way to make that work with our restrictions and our still making a profit and that kind of thing.
Right. Awesome. Thank you. And I see you got your hand back up, Walson. Yeah, if you want to chip in, that'd be great. All right. Let's see. It looks like there's someone out there considering staff-only climbing blocks. So it sounds like that was you know, one part of the consideration. How popular of an option has that been for some of you guys?
Hey, Garnet, am I still muted?
Ah, there you go. We got you.
Right.
Is that Neil out there? Oh.
That was Walson, but I think
I think
you're
you're good to
back,
go.
Walson.
I think
Oh,
you're
my
good to go,
bad.
Walson.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, like, I think Jackie, I agree with you 100%. That's we came to that conclusion as well. Like, we want to kind of celebrate that that recreational time for our staff, because they are so important to us. But I'm curious to find out, Jackie, with the temporary layoffs and bringing will all staff come back on? And for us, what we realized was that that instructors may not be working right away. So would they be allowed to have climbing privileges as well?
Yeah, go for it, Jackie.
So we only opened on February 29th, so we have a relatively smaller operation than you. So, but even with such a small staff, we're still going to have to reduce hours, which will be interesting because not all staff will come back on, but then also a lot of my staff are students, so they now will be looking for more hours because they'll be doing their classes online, they think. So, but my thought is I already kind of feel bad that I have to reduce hours and that I can't give them more hours. So as long as it's not impacting the climbing slots for members, to me, even if staff come back on at reduced hours, or you know, I can't bring them back on right now, but plan to down the road, then to me, I still want to give them that benefit of climbing so that I can at least feel like I'm doing something for them and give them a reason to come back later on, or to wait around until we can afford to have all of our staff back on.
All right, cool. Thanks for that. It looks like we got Rich who'd like to weigh in on this as well. Go for it, Rich.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, we've been talking a lot about this too, and one of the things we've decided to do, especially for the staff that are temporarily laid off, and it sounds like we all have some uncertainty as to how we're going to bring them back and when, you know, it's going to be kind of a slow process, an incremental one. So what we've done is, given that their status is technically they're not on payroll anymore, at least in our case, we've given everybody, you know, one thing that we do typically is we give out punches as kind of another form of employee benefit. And those punches are a benefit that they can use to, give to friends, family, things like that. They serve as kind of additional guest passes for, this is historically, they serve as additional guest passes for bringing in, friends and family from out of town if they want to, so on and so forth. And so for those temporary laid off staff, what we've done is just given them an additional allotment of punches. And so what they can do is they can give those to friends and family still, or they can, since they're temporarily laid off and by default, then they don't have a free membership because they're not on payroll for us. They can use those memberships to access the gym during the regular, during the time slots that we have available. And make that as fair as possible. Given that I saw some comments about doing like staff only climb time, that's something that we will look at. But again, right now, given the high restrictions that we have in terms of cleanliness and keeping the gym clean, we have to be very careful, or we're being very cautious about how we control that. And, we're trying to clean the gym after it gets used every day and before we open. And so any sort of additional staff climb time kind of can get in the way of that currently. So that's just another consideration that we have right now. So we're giving everybody punches so that they can then use that as a form of benefit that they can use and reserve regularly scheduled time slots.
All right, thanks for that, Rich. I'm just going to check in on the poll we have going. I'll leave that open for another 2 minutes, and then what I'll do is I'll throw up a poll around this question about staff access. See what everyone in this room is doing in regards to that. Anyone out there? So we haven't heard from anyone yet who at least is planning on, rather than just considering after-hours staff time. Anyone out there who is considering that? That'd like to mention some of the thought process around offering that as an option? All right. Okay, well, I'll leave this poll up just for a little bit more, give the last few people a chance to get their answers in there. And then we'll throw up the this poll on staff climbing options and maybe move on to the next question. Let's see. Okay.
Hey,
got,
Garnet, what were the
yes.
results from the previous question?
Let's see if we can display that. Looks like most of the people are below 50% retention. We'll take a look at that right after we get this other poll finished up. So see, it looks like a question that was upvoted a couple times. People are considering going member only when they reopen, and having members reserved for 2-hour climbing and fitness blocks. What are people doing in terms of limiting how many days of the week someone can come back, how many time slots that could potentially be capped there, and especially if people are still paying for a full membership, anyone have any insights on how to navigate that that especially difficult challenge? All right. Let's see. Let you guys think about that one a little bit, just so back to that question of how are you going to navigate either caps, or if you run into a maximum capacity issue, how you limit access to some of the people who are paying for full memberships. Kind of an additional question while you guys are thinking about that and raising your hands. The other question here that's upvoted quite a bit, for gyms that have been able to open, have they run into any trouble with the measures in place? Do they have any current lessons learned? So a little teaser, I don't know if you guys saw the reminder email that went out yesterday, but this Thursday actually we'll be doing a panel discussion with a few of the gyms that have been able to reopen, so they can share their experiences and give you guys a chance to ask questions. So yeah, be sure to join us on Thursday and tell all of your friends as well. I think that's gonna be a really fascinating conversation. All right. So let's see, give you guys one last moment to answer that question around capping the number of time slots that might be available, or on the flip side, making an argument for not capping those time slots. And then we'll move on to another question. Cool. Yeah, let's hear from you, Josh.
Hey, yeah, we actually spoke about capping or uncapping the number of time slots yesterday in a meeting. And what we've decided to do is we've looked at roughly how many check-ins can we handle a day, given our comfortable capacity. And then we've basically figured out how many time slots each member could have per week based on that. And for us, it worked out to be roughly 2 time slots per week. We can guarantee each member. And so we're going with that because we think some members will take more than 2, would likely want more than 2. Some will take less, which will allow for some guest members as well.
Okay. So are you suggesting that people just come twice a week, or are you actually capping that?
No, we are actually going to cap it at 2 initially, okay. And then we can open it to more as things kind of settle and our occupancy increases.
All right. Yeah, and I think that at least on an average, that I'm just going to look up the exact answer here, but in our indoor climber survey, that gels pretty well with most people's habits coming to the gym. That seems like it's about 2 to 3 days a week, if I remember correctly.
The Vertical Life survey came out yesterday, and I was actually a little bit surprised. I think it was over 50% said they come more than 3 times a week, which I was expecting to be more closer to that 2 per week. So.
Yeah, and I'm just
their survey pool might be a bit biased, because if you think about it, like they probably got a lot of their app users to respond to their survey, and those are people that are probably training and a bit more engaged climbers. So it might not be representative of your membership.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And let's see, just to give you the numbers off of our indoor climber survey, 32% of people responded they climb more than twice a week, 30% about twice a week, and 15% about once a week. So, that'll give you a little bit of a number from our survey. That's in the U.S. and Canada. So a little bit of a concrete number there. All right, and let's hear from you, Rich.
I was going to say, yeah, I think I've done this in the past. You can go into RGP, and I think there's a support article about this. You can go into RGP and actually survey your membership for any period of time and look at their check-ins. And that can be a good way to kind of help benchmark. I think every community is different, every business, every gym's different, in terms of varying the amount of check-ins per member, depending on the dynamics of the market that you operate in. And so using that data, using your own data that you have in RGP, it's all there at your fingertips. And I believe there's a article in RGP that demonstrates how to run that query So you can kind of see like what your check-ins per member looks like, during a typical sort of year. So running that over a month or like the year of 2019, that might help give operators a sense of what their average sort of member check-in looks like on a weekly basis.
All right, cool. Thanks for that. Yeah, no, that's a good tip. And that actually kind of touches on the next question I was going to bring up here, which is what tools are folks using for scheduling climbers? Anything other than RGP? And have a lot of you taken advantage of the new patches that RGP has released specifically for facilitating these time slots? All right, go for it, Neil.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
It works, and it's Mimi. I don't know how Neil's name got on there. It's me. Hi. So we couldn't find the tool for the 2-hour slots or a patch or a download or anything through Action Pro, so we just created it like we would with signing up for a class or a birthday party, and it was very easy to do. You can ask specific questions or have them answer a question like, if we have these certain rules and safety precautions, will you adhere to them? If you don't, we will have to ask you to adhere to them or leave the building and such. So far it was very easy to set up, and putting it all online on our website, so assumption of risks can be updated. If they want to unfreeze their membership, they can do it there and then reserve their time slot. So we're using RGP and created our own 2-hour time slots.
All right. Yeah, I was just looking at a comment in addition to what you had just mentioned, Mimi, in terms of not being able to find that RGP patch. I think that was just released last week, so it's relatively new. We did link to it on our Facebook page, but you can also go to RGP's website and find that if you need it. They have a pretty decent tool built there. I'm going to go ahead and stop this survey on the staff climbing. And I'm going to try to share the results. I'll share the results for that. It looks like most people are going for a percentage of occupancy or time slots. I did see a comment in there that I forgot to include a no special considerations. We're just doing what we've always done option. So there'll probably be a number of people that are taking that approach as well. So let's see. Got the next question in here. So we got that one. Oh yeah, here's a great one, and this kind of flows into that last question around RGP as well. Anyone planning on reducing the monthly fees when you have to limit entry so severely? Or any other pricing questions? Let's open it up a little bit more broadly. Anyone planning on increasing their prices to to cover for the lost revenue of the last few months? All right, John, let's hear from you.
Relative to your question, I thought it might fit your question what City Rock, I believe, is doing, and I'm sure some others are thinking about doing that, of not charging membership dues at all, and then charging a per session cost.
Per session cost.
For everybody, whether they were a member or just a random walk-in off the streets.
Yeah, and any concerns there on kind of the long-term community aspects of that, or what people come to expect if this goes on for a number of months? Do you see that potentially setting a new normal in your business, or even just becoming a brand new business model?
Yeah, I should let somebody else. I was just pointing out, because that's not what we're planning to do. That was just what City Rock is doing. So they should probably speak to that.
All right. Yeah, anyone out there exploring that idea? Yeah, and that's a big one since it would be in general for most especially American gyms, a pretty big shift in a business model. Oh, here's a great question in terms of opening fitness areas to members. Do you have separate time slots? I did see in the comments a couple climbing/fitness slots. And if you are having separate slots for fitness, are those going to have a different time, different chunk of time instead of 2 hours, 1 hour, or 3 hours, whatever people might need? Let's hear from you, Rich.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We're going to break our fitness areas and other discrete areas of the gym into specific sections. And then when we have the time slots available, if you're looking at like one of our buildings, for example, you'll have a choice of numerous different sections. And our fitness areas, for example, like won't be that 2 hour climbing period. It'll be an hour climbing period or fitness period. We're also going to allow folks to sign up for more than one fitness period a day, whereas for climbing periods, we're going to only allow one per day. So that's just kind of how our approach to that situation.
All right, thank you. Anyone else taking that same approach or a different one and just lumping everything together into one reservable time slot? All right, go for it, Mimi.
Yes, so we are lumping it into one 2 hour slot and having a sign up for the fitness area where the signage says only this many people in this fitness area, and then they sign up, and then we can announce or find that person, since we shouldn't have too big of a crowd in there, and say, okay, your fitness time slot is ready. You can go into the fitness area.
Okay, great. Yeah, and there might be other components to your gym as well that have similar considerations, whether it's any classes or yoga or strength classes that you might be able to still facilitate while respecting social distancing. Let's see, next question that pops up comes back to how much people are spending on any special rewards for member appreciation giveaways. And I think we can throw a little poll up for that, for anyone who's doing that, and to just to bring this back around to any cool ideas that people are employing there. We've covered branded sanitizer, some custom fun face masks. And I've heard from a few people about doing limited edition T-shirts that really only these members who've kept their EFT engaged are some of those tactics that gyms out there are using. I've also heard from a couple gyms about reopening T-shirts. So anyone who who could be unfreezing their membership or rejoining, have a custom appreciation for that discrete event as well. Anyone out there with any other touch points or entry points that might deserve special recognition, or who just thinks that's a bad idea to segment your members that way? All right. Take some notes here. Okay. Let's move on from that one. I'll leave the poll up for maybe another 30 seconds to a minute, and then we'll share those results. Looking at other questions here, this is a great one. How realistic is it for gyms to have a comp later this year? And similarly would be any sort of member appreciation event or even youth program, any of those types of things. I guess I can share from my experience. I know that's something that the major sports federations are looking really closely at and should have some good guidance on. And then that's going to have to tie in with any of the local guidance that you guys have from your relevant authorities as well. Has anyone out there started to figure out how they're going to go around strategizing when to reboot things like summer camps, competitions, events? All right, John, jump right in.
If the county lets us. Oh.
Yeah, we can hear you, John.
I think John is muted.
Let's see.
So you can try to go ahead and unmute.
There
we go.
All right. We'll run summer camps if the county will let us. Remains to be seen how many we would put in there. One question is we may not be able to start those at the same time, at the same date that we had planned on originally. So we're hoping that those people will be able to push out their booking to a later session. Otherwise, we're going to be giving back a lot of money, which would really be a bad time to do that. But yeah, we still actually have people still signing up even now, even though we're not open, still signing up for future slots. Nobody's signing up for the first ones in June, but June and July are still getting signups.
Great, thank you, John. Let's see. Yeah, anyone else with insights, or I guess another way to look at this, is there a single source that you're looking for to answer that question? When can I restart these programs? Is it, I believe John mentioned his county authorities. Are you looking towards schools is a tricky one for summer camps, but are you looking towards schools and maybe daycares, other institutions like that, to your local public health authority, to the state? Yeah, I'd love to hear any sort of like key indicators that you guys have for making those decisions. Yeah, let's hear from you, Walson.
Yeah, hi. So Alberta Health Authority has issued stages of deployment for opening. And so we have two, which is a little ambiguous for us. One is next week we can open for day camps, and then the next phase would be opening for summer camps. So the plans that we have are really just, they're pretty specific on what they want in day camps. So they're talking about cohorting each camp. So the number of people cohort together, and those cohorts can't mix in or intermingle at all. But we also have the option to, what we've been thinking of also is just taking temperatures of every summer camp applicant, or everyone every time they come in as well. Some of our concerns is, when children wake up and they're sick and they're in a rush, and mom or dad say, hey, look, we'll deal with this later. Let's just get you to camp.
All right, cool, thanks. Yeah, it's looking through some of the other comments that people have been typing in around this question. Yeah, and I think they're pretty similar. Yeah, let's so I'll be closing this poll up in just 10 seconds in terms of the cost for giveaways. And as I do that, let's see, we've got just time for maybe one or two more questions. Got a couple operational questions. I guess back to the summer camp. Has anyone thought about limiting children in the bouldering area to certain hours? And then that might go into that broader camp discussion of, do you have designated areas for children? And go for it, Rich.
Yeah, that's something that we've been looking at. Given that we're moving to more or less this time slot model, running a traditional summer camp model at the gym, at least, our outdoor programs potentially might be able to run on a more or less on a similar or like the consistent pre-planned sort of 8-hour schedule that we had originally. But as we look to expand our time slots, we might just do youth program specific time slots only. So that way we're not mixing the general population with the youth population. And so that's definitely something we're looking at, kind of 2 and 4 hour slots, starting probably in July, for making that happen.
Awesome. Thanks, Rich. Yeah, and kind of important to note too, it's probably won't apply to a huge number of climbing gyms, but there's some guidance from a lot of health authorities I've seen in regards to indoor versus outdoor activities. So that might be another area to explore as you navigate some of this decision making. We forgot to share the results earlier for member support. See how many people how many members stayed active and kept paying you guys through the closures. So I'm just going to share those results right now as we close up. So I'll leave that up on the screen as we move on here. Looks like the majority of people, pretty sizable majority of people were less than 50% remaining active in some way. As I mentioned before, on Thursday we are going to have a panel discussion with a few of the gyms that have reopened, so they can kind of share their experiences, some of the customer interactions and customer behaviors they've been witnessing, and then also have a chance for them to answer any questions you guys might have. I think it's going to be a really interesting insight, and yeah, really looking forward to that conversation. So yeah, join us on Thursday at 10, and we'll get hopefully as many questions as possible answered. I imagine there'll be a lot for that particular panel. Some of the things we didn't touch on in this call, but I'm sure still active questions for you guys. When are we going to be releasing our guidance and posters? We're trying to get that out as quickly as possible. I'm hoping, I'm hoping in the next week or so to have that publicly available for you guys. And then, with any of these questions, always feel free to reach out to us directly. We're here to help you guys, and we're going to try to, just keep these discussions alive as we go. So we'll keep these webinars going for you. And any topics that you guys would like to see addressed, any of the things that we touched on here that need to be talked about more. Obviously, some of the events, summer camps, youth programming is a really hot one, and that's one that we'll certainly be focusing on in the future as we get closer to reopening. But any of those topics, either during the webinars or afterwards, always just let us know, and we'll try to get as much content out to you guys and as many questions as answered as possible. So we'll close out this call for today and see you guys all on Thursday. Have a great rest of the week.